Hi everybody. How is everyone doing on this fine Wednesday morning? So it is once again Wacky Wednesday, and I am in my car and had complete, full plans last night about what I wanted to do for Wacky Wednesday. I had plans based on what I was going to... Sorry guys, if I'm all over the place, I'm driving. I had plans on what I was going to make for dinner, to some degree, and, you know, what activities I was going to do last night, and even, you know, down to an approximate time I was planning to go to bed, okay? But, you know, as we all experience on occasion, or more often than we'd like, life has a way of interrupting your plans, and you're not able to do what you wanted to do. Well, guess what? That happened to me last night. So, I don't have a crazy funny video for you for today, but I do kind of have a wacky story to tell, and I thought I would do that instead, since, you know, that's my only option really, aside from skipping this week, which, you know, I don't like to do if I don't have to. So I'll start the story out by myself leaving work. So I got out of work last night at 5 p.m. Which, you know, I'm already behind the 8 ball here because I normally leave at 4. So I'm already late. Which, you know, starting the night out right, you know. And I get in my car and I call my husband. And he's telling me, you know, what he's got going on. He said he stopped by my mom's house, which is where we have the camper right now, and said that he would, you know, he's gonna work on the awning, because the awning has like a cut in it. It's in desperate need of a new awning, but they're like, I don't know, they're over $1,000 for a new awning. In fact, they're probably more than that. But the camper's like 20 plus years old, so we really don't want to put any money into it if we don't have to. We're trying to make it last as long as possible. So anyway, he stopped by there we got some really powerful tape. It's Gorilla, like a duct tape kind of stuff. And it works really well. So we got some of that to basically patch the hole for now. And then he said he had to go home. He had to get some things done around the house and around his mom's place. So he had to trim bushes and do a little bit of yard work, things like that. So I was talking to him about, you know, I said we have chicken in the fridge and we really need to deal with the chicken. We got like a family size pack of chicken breasts, and normally what I do is I split them up and put them in the quantities that I need to feed the family and freeze them. We have like one of those food savers, and I food save it and freeze it. But before, I was going to obviously leave some out for our dinner. We make these wraps that my husband found a recipe for, or he got the recipe from a friend, and you know, I told him, I said that's what I had in mind, because we have a ton of like pita style bread or wraps, sandwich wrap bread, and we really need to get using that along with the chicken. And we have raw vegetables in the house. So yeah, I was doing all that. So that was my plan. I was going to make dinner, and then I was going to work on a project after dinner, and then I was going to record my Wacky Wednesday video and possibly my Theme Thursday video, provided I had time. And I had a plan of getting to bed at least by 9 o'clock, because, you know, ever since, for 8 years, with me being in college, I have gone to bed not much before midnight most nights. And, you know, old habits are hard to break. So I've been trying to get myself to bed at a decent hour, because sleep is very important for, you know, your overall health and everything. But, you know, it hasn't been working out real smoothly. Like, I might go to bed, but I'm not sleeping much before those times anyway. So I'm sorry, I digress. Back to the story. So I am chopping up vegetables. I have this little mini food processor, and I'm chopping up carrots, celery, and broccoli, which is the three vegetables that we put in our wraps. You can put onion, or you can put anything you want, really. And then you take the chicken and you pound the crap out of it and make it really kind of borderline soft, instead of a, you know, a tougher substance that chicken is. Which I didn't get to that part. I was doing the vegetables and cutting up, you know, I think broccoli at the time. And my husband comes in the door and he said, "I need someone's help." And I have my back to him, so I said, "Well, I can't help you." I said, "Get one of the girls," because I said, I'm knee deep in these vegetables and I don't want to, you know, get my hands in a unsanitary state because I was touching food. And he didn't say much. I gotta switch my hands here, guys. Apologize. He didn't say much. He just kind of walked into the kitchen area and started, you know, ow, you know, that kind of thing. And again, I still had my back to him, and I said, "What'd you do?" And he said, "Well," he said, "I kind of had a run-in with the hedge trimmers." And he whacked through his pants, his jeans, and put a nice little gash on his knee. Right where the knee bends, too. So this gash is about 1.5 inches long, and it is pretty deep. It's deep to the point that, you know, it's bleeding pretty badly, and he definitely needs stitches. I mean, you can tell by not only looking at it, but just knowing by the nature of the situation, and probably a tetanus shot as well. He had one several years ago, but pretty sure it was more than 10 years ago that he had one. So we were trying to figure out if we could go to one of those urgent care clinics, or if we actually had to go to the ER. And turns out we had to go to the ER. So while he was getting a shower, because he was completely filthy and bleeding everywhere, I quickly finished up the vegetables, stuck them in a container, put the chicken back in the fridge, and, you know, gathered up the girls, and away we went. You know, we went to the hospital. And while we're on the way, you know, his knee is soaking through paper towels. Like, it's not squirting out like blood would do if you were to hit some kind of artery or something like that, or like a, you know, a vein or something. But it was, you know, it was sort of just very steadily flowing out of him and soaking through paper towels pretty quickly. So I'm driving up the road, and he's trying to stop the bleeding somehow. Callie is in the back of the car, Callie and Goldie. Callie is just sitting back there being stone silent. She's not saying a single word. And Goldie is borderline freaking out. I mean, she's not quite there, but she's starting to ask a lot of questions, and she's just, you know, what's going to happen? And, you know, are you going to bleed out? And, you know, just ask her all kinds of questions. And, you know, I'm trying to concentrate on getting him to the hospital safely. And he's sitting there trying to stop the bleeding. So it's like trying to, you know, when you're concentrating, it's kind of hard to be interrupted like that. But I think both of us did pretty well. We answered her questions. Short answers, but because, you know, there were other more important things to deal with at the time. But she calmed down as the ride progressed. I mean, we have about a half hour, 45-minute drive to anywhere pretty much in our area, especially like a hospital. So we had lots of time to work on stopping that bleeding, and, you know, Goldie had lots of time to think about all the things she wanted to ask, and Callie had lots and lots of quiet time. And of course, I am just trying to get us there. So it was an interesting night. So we pull up to the emergency entrance, and I quickly find a parking space, which is a good thing, right? Because that means there's not very many people in the waiting room if there's not a lot of cars there. And as I'm looking for a parking spot, Goldie announces that, hey, there's a guy going in there without his shirt on. And, you know, at the time I was just like, oh yeah, okay, great. I think she was sort of trying to figure out why he was going in, because normally when you go into businesses and stuff, you can't go into those type of places without a shirt on. So I think that might have been why she made that statement. I'm not really sure. So we get out of the car and we go into the hospital. Of course, there's a form, which I'm so grateful it was short. It was like half a page of stuff to fill out. And then we got a pager like you get at a restaurant, you know, when you're waiting for a table. So we sat down, and, you know, the girl's trying to get on the Wi-Fi and all that. And we're just talking about, I don't know, random stuff. Joking a little bit about, you know, about his, you know, situation. You know, I told him that he was high maintenance and stuff like that. Can't take him anywhere. you know, just trying to cool down the situation a little bit. And the pager goes off relatively fast. So we go into a triage nurse, and they sit him in a chair that captures his weight and blood pressure and all that stuff at the same time. It just sort of does its thing. And they're asking some questions, you know, about what happened, does he know what time it happened. This all took place, I want to say, around 6:45 last night. And we got to the ER around 7:30, I think, something like that. Or I could be off a little bit. I'm trying to remember when I posted stuff on Facebook. So it might have been earlier. I might have my times mixed up. And they gave us yet another form, which is the family history form, you know. Does anybody in your family have diabetes, heart attack, kidney stones, blah, 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 blah. So we went through all that. And we sat in the waiting room for a while. And the girls were out in the regular waiting room. I did not have them come back with me because typically there's not very much room in those emergency rooms. There's usually only one chair for someone that's accompanying you when you go to the ER. And I just figured they'd be more comfortable out in the other waiting room. There was a fish tank out there, and there were books to read and stuff like that. They would just be sitting in the waiting room. And Callie, she's 16, so she would have been completely calm and fine the whole time, but Goldie would have been asking, continuing to ask a lot of questions. And probably that mixed in with whining. She still whines at her age. Which, that is like the most quickest thing to get under my skin is to hear a whining child. So I was like, nope, you girls stay out here. You'll have a lot more to do out here, and we will, we'll text you and keep you informed of what's going on. So they were cool with it. But we're sitting in the waiting room or in the room, and the first nurse comes in and asks us some health questions. She takes our insurance information and all that, and she leaves. And then the other nurse came in. I can't remember her title, but she was the person that was going to be perhaps performing all of the procedures on my husband. So she asked what happened, times, what was he doing and all that. And he explained that he was whacking bushes, and the trimmers slipped and ran into his knee. And so she asked what his pain level was on a scale of 1 to 10, and his pain level is at this point only at a 1. I mean, he really didn't have a whole lot of pain. I think partially, the body has a natural way of going into shock when things happen to you. So I think that was part of the ordeal there. But also, I think he could have had some nerve damage or anything like that might have kept him from feeling certain things. So anyway, she said, she put on gloves and took a look at it, and said that it looked pretty deep. She said, luckily, from what she could see, she said they need to clean it out to be sure, but she said it didn't look like it was down to the bone or that it cut into the muscle tissue either. So it was basically a flesh wound that, was relatively deep, but could be remedied with just stitches, and he would be good to go. So she left the room and said she would be, before she left, she said she would be right back, right back in quotation marks, and get him all sewn up and on his way. So we're sitting there for quite a while, and then another nurse comes in, and she delivered his tetanus shot because he hadn't had one. They looked in his records, and he hadn't had one. It's been over 10 years since he's had one, so he had to get a tetanus shot. And he's, braved that out just fine. And then another nurse comes in. Probably about 20 minutes to a half hour went by between each visits that we got. So the other nurse came in, and she brought iodine and cleaning solution and, the needle thread, all of the tools that the nurse was going to need to perform the cleaning of the wound and also, stitching him up. And so that was, relatively quick. The girl didn't really talk much. She just, you know, said, hey, how you doing? That kind of thing. And she said, I'm just getting your, you know, your materials ready for the nurse. She'll be in hopefully soon and get you all fixed up here. So then she left. And oh my word, we waited and waited and waited. I swear for like an hour and a half. I don't know. It wasn't that long, but it felt that long. We just waited and waited. And while we were waiting, this guy comes in. He walks by my husband's room, and he has, you know, I hear him talking. Like, there's sort of a machine blocking my view from the door. And I hear this guy talking, and he just like comes in the room, and he's talking about, hey man, what did you do? And he's like, you did yourself up good like me. And he had, no joke, he had a cut on his head from the top of his hairline down to the bridge of his nose. Well, halfway to his nose. Like, it was going into his eye socket almost for the half. Or, well, more along the bridge of the nose. Oh my word. He had this huge cut, and he had all these stitches. I think he had 17 stitches in his head. And of course, he is talking like he is completely drunk, which he probably wasn't drunk. He just was loopy from bashing his head. And he was telling us this story about how after work they were so hot that they wanted to jump in this lake, and he dove headfirst into a lake, and there was a sharp pointy rock. The point was sort of in the shape of an axe, and it's chopped into his head. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, dude, you're lucky to be here with us, you know. And he was real friendly and everything, but it was just kind of one of those things that you don't normally have those kind of interactions when you're in the ER. You just, you know, you're just sitting there and you kind of, you know, wait your turn and all that. And of course the nurse that was dealing with him is looking for him, because she needs to bandage his head up. Like, they did the sewing, they sewed him back together, but they need to bandage it now. They couldn't find him, so they're looking for him, and they found him with us. So they're like, sir, you need to come back to your room so we can bandage your head. So, and of course he just like, yeah, I'll be right there, and then he just kept talking to us, you know. There was like 20-30 seconds went by, and he was still talking, and I'm like, you better go. Which I didn't say that to him. I was just thinking of that in my head, like, you better get going. And then, you know, we're waiting and waiting, and I got to the point where I got up out of the chair and walked towards the door a couple times, and one of the other nurses that had come in previously said, hasn't she come in yet, you know? And, you know, we're, of course, you know, no, she hasn't. She's like, oh, she said, I wonder. And, you know, she left again, and it was like more waiting, and finally the lady comes back in, the nurse that was going to do the stitches, and she apologized. She said all of a sudden, like, whenever she left our room, basically all hell broke loose, and she had to deal with people that needed more care, like more emergency care than my husband. So she had to kind of put us on the back burner and deal with the other patients. So that was kind of like why we were sitting there so long, because normally, you know, once you're in the room, it usually doesn't take too awful long before you get, you know, the treatments and all that stuff. So anyway, she came in and cleaned out his wound, and I got some really gory pictures of it, which, you know, I won't share unless somebody really wants to see them, but the gash was pretty deep. He was lucky. He did not hit any nerves, he did not hit any muscle tissue, and he didn't go down to the bone. So he got a total of 8 stitches, and he got a immobilizer brace so that he is not allowed to bend his knee for at least a week, and has to get the stitches out in 10 days. So guess what? We are going to South Carolina. We're leaving to go to South Carolina on the 16th of this month, and we will be there through the 21st to watch the eclipse. And we're also planning to go to the beach and have some ocean time and all that stuff. And he is forbidden to submerge that wound in water naturally. So that put a little bit of a damper on his evening. But, you know, I am always a person that tries to look on the positive side of things for the most part. And I basically said, well, you know, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it that you still have all your fingers and all your toes. And, you know, had that hedge trimmer gone deeper, like not much deeper, like he just missed being able to have surgery. So if that cut would have gone any more into his skin, he would have been there a lot longer, and he would have been on the surgery table. So he's like, yeah, you're absolutely right. He's like, I know. He said, I don't mean to be so pessimistic about stuff, but it's like, I know, it sucks. You think about it. It's like, we're supposed to be on vacation. We're supposed to have fun. And, you know, you're stuck sitting on the sidelines, so to speak, and watching the rest of us have fun. So, with all that being said, we didn't get home last night until it was like after midnight, I think, sometime. And of course, we're all starving because none of us had dinner. So we stopped at Taco Bell, I think, and had it was Taco Bell, and had some food. And a few hours later, we all got back up again to start our day, which is what I'm doing right now with you all here. So I hope you enjoyed my little wacky story for this Wacky Wednesday. I know this is a really long video, and I apologize. I'm not the best storyteller, I don't think. I tend to veer off in other directions, and I drag things out probably longer than I should. But I hope you enjoyed it. My husband is doing just fine, as long as he stays away from any kind of infection over the course of these 10 days. He will be good to go, all patched up and good as new. And yeah, we'll look forward to our vacation regardless. We're going to have fun no matter what. And yeah, I will be back for Theme Thursday. Hope you enjoyed looking at little Mia. She was cold this morning, poor baby. It's been in the low 70s this whole week so far, and at night it gets down into the 50s, which isn't freezing, but for a little baby of her size, very cold. So I put a little pair of pants on her, and I put some booties on her today, because she just had that little tiny tank top onesie on and her little hand mitts. So gonna wrap her in this nice warm blanket, and she's gonna spend the day at work with me. So I thought I would let you guys check her out. It's awesome to see this baby in the natural light, because you can really see her color, and hopefully you can see details on her and everything. But anyway, I will let you all go, because I have talked long enough. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all for Theme Thursday. Have a great one, and talk to you all later, guys. Bye-bye. Hey guys, it's me again. I apologize. I left out some key components of my earlier video regarding the story of our adventure at the ER last night. And one of the things that I neglected to say, which was, remember the guy I was talking about that came into my husband's room and was, had a big gash on his forehead? Well, I didn't notice it at the time, Like, it took me a little bit to notice it, but he was not wearing a shirt. And when he left the room, I had recalled that Goldie had mentioned, remember when I said we were parking, Goldie said, hey, there's a guy going into the emergency room, or going into the hospital without a shirt on. Well, I had texted my girls when this gentleman was discharged, and it turns out that Goldie recognized him, and she said, yeah, that was him. So go figure, you know, not completely out of the ordinary for us to be kind of, you know, running into somebody like that, but it was just kind of interesting that she had seen him, and then throughout the evening we ended up talking to the gentleman, and here he was the one. So I just thought that was funny to share. And also there were a bunch of corrections officers there, and a prisoner brought into the emergency room, and I was torn, which I totally neglected to tell you guys this. I was completely torn on whether or not I should bring the girls back to the room with us. You know, aside from all the things that I said, but we were leaving them, and this prisoner was going to be sitting out in the waiting room with them. And I just kind of felt a little uneasy about that. But, you know, it turned out that he ended up getting taken back shortly after we did, so they weren't hanging out in the waiting room with a convict. So yeah, that was the wacky part of my Wacky Wednesday. I was gonna completely like delete this video and re-record it, but I thought it adds to the wacky aspect of today, and I figured I would just leave it. So here's little Mia. She is very snuggled in one of my drawers here, and I just wanted to point out her beautiful face. I love how Claire painted like the dry skin look on her face. Her silicone is not peeling or anything, it's just the way Claire painted her face to make her look like she has dry skin, like a fresh newborn baby. So yeah, there she is. Say hi, Mia. Alright everyone, thank you so much, and again I apologize for the mix-up and not, you know, well, not leaving out those crazy details that I should have said to begin with. So have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye!